You are listening to the Roberta Glass True Crime Report, putting the true back in true crime. From New York City, Roberta Glass is now on the record.
Hello. Hello, everyone. Once again, I'm so excited to talk with today's guest, Sunny Tanner. She was there in court for Charlie Adelson's very brief sentencing hearing. And boy, did I get this wrong. Boy, did I predict it wrong. I predicted a long, fascinating hearing, and it turned out to be a short, very moving hearing as far as Phil Markel's statement, but very brief and very short, and no statement from the judge, only one victim impact statement. Sunny Tanner, you were there in court. Thank you for being here to talk to us about it. What did you see?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me on, and thank you for your kind community and your audience and everyone seeking justice for Dan Markel and all other victims. This is about the victims. Okay, it ended a little sad, but it started out great. Daniel Rashbaum came in by himself. I did not see Marisol in the gallery. We later found out she was at the airport at 5:15 that night. So wow. She didn't even go to hang out with her client who she never gets to see. That was weird. So Daniel came in himself. In comes Georgia in what I call her shark skin suit. It's just shiny material, just stunning, with her red blouse. And Sarah in her black suit with her red plaid pants. I mean, these two represent. I'm just, they just look great. They're confident. And that was about Donna's shoes that day. I'm sorry, Wendy's shoes that day. If Wendy wanted to look smart, strong, and confident, all she had to do was add a decent pair of shoes or add a pair of sneakers. I'm telling you, I'm still petty on her shoes because, you know, I wear uncomfortable shoes to look nice, or I wear comfortable shoes to be comfortable, but I don't wear worn out, ugly shoes because I'm wearing a suit. But the ladies look nice. The gallery was filling up. A lot of the media we saw from last time, Court TV, Grace Wong, Tallahassee Democrat. In comes Agent Pat Sanford, who did all of the wiretaps and could not be, you couldn't move that guy off the stand. I know Rashbaum tried, and I waved to him. He was in his street clothes. He gives me a little wink. He's got the twinkle in his eye. I mean, he is just, he's salt of the earth, this guy. Hi, Pat Sanford. And Jason Newland came with him. He's the investigator for the state, you know, special investigator for the attorney's office. People were coming in, and here comes Charlie through the same door his mother exited through last night. And in his jail blues, shuffling, he looked up. It looked like he looked over to the first two rows, which was only media, but there was only allowed 2 media people. So it looked like he nodded at someone. Maybe there's a cameraman there, or there's a reporter there that's quite tall and easy to spot. And he's been there every day because he's a reporter. And maybe Charlie just recognized him. He nodded. It seemed a little weird to me. Like, Charlie, you don't have friends here. So I don't know. It was weird. And he was so pale. He was practically see-through. That's what the people sitting us were saying. He's practically see-through. He had his gray beard.
Can we just take a look at some of the footage just in the beginning, so my audience can see what we're talking about? This is.
I mean, he looked pale.
So maybe we can just keep it up while you're talking, and people can take a look at
Let me
it.
put that right there. Okay. There you go. So they
Almost
also told us we
green
couldn't
and
have our phones again.
Oh,
Say it
they didn't.
again.
He almost looked green, sort of sickly to my eye. I had the same impression that he did not look well, very pale and unwell looking. Can you hear me, Sonny?
Yes, I can. Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, I just thought he looked very unwell. I echo your sentiment. Very green and a kind of combination between green and translucent color. Ill looking.
Yes, not well. Of course, he's a convict now. Okay, he's not a man in a suit and tie that was a dentist. Here's a convicted murderer, and he looked like it. Okay, he's got his chains on, and he knows that these are the. I mean, he had to have seen the same faces that have been there. We're all very familiar, and he looked like a convict. Now, of course, the judge, he's like, I have to get my Zoom going because the victim, Mr. Markel, was appearing by Zoom. And there was a little glitch. And of course, the judge, he says, as usual with technology, we need to do an update. So while we're doing that, and he does a little judge chuckle. He's so cute. He made everyone introduce themselves. And there's no one in the gallery for Charlie again. Then Dan said, I'm going to do two brief statements, one from Charlie and one from myself. And the judge said, that'll be fine. We're going to do the victim impact statement first. At this time, Daniel turned around and looked behind him and really turned. So he had to look behind the defense side. I don't know if he was looking I thought he was looking for Marisol, but he must have known she got on the plane. He was looking for somebody. Then Mr. Markel came on. They didn't show it on any cameras in the court. I don't know if you got to see it. We had to look around to see the victim impact statement. You can see the state prosecutor's computer from the gallery, and that's the only way we can see Mr. Markel. So Daniel, they had a computer at their table, and then the state had. They didn't put it up on, any screens or anything. So
that's unfortunate. Yeah.
Right. So actually, I was thinking when I'm so silly. I really am. I was thinking that Charlie it was smart of the judge to say, first, we're going to hear the victim impact statement. And I said to myself, I wonder if that'll make Charlie, after hearing, from the victim's impact statement, will change what he was going to say, So I watched him. I didn't even look at Mr. Markel on the computer. It was hard to see. I watched Charlie. He began to sink. Literally sink as Dan's memory and Dan's accomplishments stood tall and strong against this mousy coward. Mr. Markel spoke with such passion and love and pure, unadulterated adoration of his son that he hasn't been able to speak about for so many years in this free way, because he didn't want to jeopardize the case. I mean, the poor Markels have had to stay silent practically. And I'm watching to see Charlie, literally and figuratively shrinking. And Dan is standing tall in everybody's memory. There were professors there from the law school. Someone in the gallery pointed out, there are people from FSU here to stand here for Dan. And so that was that. Dan's memory is standing tall against this little mousy coward. He spoke about the arranged schedule to be with the boys. Mr. Markel talked about how Dan rearranged his schedule, his work schedule, his travel schedule, whatever he had to do to be with his boys, to take them to holiday or certain traditions or to meet certain family. They really did so much in the few short years they had together. He really enjoyed, this boy's childhood. You just got that feeling that they just did so many things in those few short years. And it was very sad, but heartwarming at the same time, because of course we've heard nothing but disparaging comments about Danny, which are all untrue, by Wendy, who's just her own PR machine. So it, as Mr. Markel was talking about, the very few supervised visits that have to be watched over, that Donna stood by or that were supervised. And I'm thinking, this is exactly what Donna didn't want Dan to do to her because of the way she was speaking. And yet here she was doing that exact same thing to Mr. Markel with the boys. It's just the gall of this woman.
Absolutely. It's infuriating. And when you hear those victim impact statements, they hit hard when you're in court.
They hit hard. Mm-hmm. They really do, because you see them as the human, the victim, somebody's son, brother, father, son, friend, co-worker, colleague, teacher, mentor, faith partner. There's so many people in this town are missing Danny. So many people in the legal community are missing Danny. The faculty, the school, his students that never, could go on and mentor with him. And I'm saying there's so many people in this town missing Danny, but who's here for Charlie? Nobody. He thought he was so all self-important, and now he's just, goodbye. You're a convicted murderer.
I would be curious to see if people wrote letters to the judge. I would think not, because in Florida, unlike other states where the judge has a little bit more discretion, it's just an automatic life without parole for murder. So, would people write letter? It seems sort of pointless to write a letter to the judge asking for a lesser sentence, extolling all of Charlie's virtue, when at minimum he's going to be doing life without parole, and the best he can do is to have the sentences run together. Is that concurrently at the same time? I sometimes
concurrently means together, and they are consecutive. Yeah. So he has to do life plus 30, just like Katie, just like Sigfredo, and just like Donna's going to have to do. They're all guilty of the same exact thing. Nothing should be different.
Right.
So Mr. Markel spoke about, you heard him speak about the invitation to the bar mitzvah of the firstborn. And then when Charlie got arrested, they took the invitation back. And so I personally said I would have just crashed the bar mitzvah. I mean, it's not like the synagogue has bouncers, okay? You walk in with your yarmulke on, you see your grandson. Well, what are they going to do? But of course, the Markels have way more class than and restraint than I would, and so I applaud that. And Charlie, Charlie has his son with his last name, and Mr. Markel was talking about how they changed the kid's last name, and I'm looking at Charlie, and he's starting the blink thing again, He's sinking and blinking.
Great point. It's
so it was like Wendy just went on with the bar mitzvah. That's like, party on, Wendy. Your brother just got arrested for murdering your husband, your children's father, and she had the bar mitzvah. Party on, Wendy.
Right. I mean, it's so interesting to hear all your impressions, because it's really, when you're watching it on your screen of your phone, it's a really different experience. And it was so touching to have Phil Markel talk about Dan from a child, how much he wanted to improve himself, how he worked so hard to be the best at anything he was interested in, or to be better, not the best necessarily, but to be better. And to meet goals was all this hard work. And he talked about having a very hard Russian speed skating instructor, and how he remembers Danny coming off the ice with a red face, puffing and puffing. And when he
I
said
could picture it.
at 13 to go to Harvard, he did all the extracurricular activities, head of his school paper, that he needed to do to achieve his goal.
He painted a very living, beautiful picture of a beautiful soul. And I could picture a 13-year-old boy or whatever with the ice and red cheeks, just overjoyed with the fact that look what I could do. You know, when you learn something and you realize that you've mastered something, it's very empowering for a young man or any young person. And it seemed like everything he took on, he mastered, he learned how to do. And, you know, I wish there were more people like that. But I'm sure there will be. His sons are no doubt going to be brilliant as he is. I hope they get their life straightened out and they know how many family members miss and love them. Yes. So after Mr. Markel's statement, I was thinking at this point, will Charlie like alter or change his statement? I mean, that would be the most human thing to do. Like, I'm still thinking he is going to like come to the conclusion that, holy crap, everything my sister told me was horse poop. And, you know, this guy was a stand-up guy. I'm going to stand up here and say, I am so sorry. Turn around and say to everybody, I'm so sorry this happened. This got out of control. Please show mercy. I will do it. Well, I had hope that he was going to hear this and maybe make a human statement. I was gobsmacked. Wow. The state has a score sheet, and the judge said, show the defense your score sheet, but Charlie wouldn't look at it. And it's like, it was a physical piece of paper. Georgia got up and handed it to him. Charlie wouldn't look at it.
Can I explain that for a second, what that score
sheet is? Yes, please do. Yes.
So what the score sheet is, so it's very technical, but each crime has a certain, comes with a certain amount of points and they add it all up to make a sentence. And so if you have any mitigating factors like your age, if you're a juvenile, then that gets subtracted. And so you get an offender number. So your offender number might be 42, and that equals a recommended sentence of this. That's how it was worked out in the federal trials I watched. I would assume it would be a similar thing. But once you're, he's not going to look at it. He knows he's going away for life. He knows that things aren't without parole. He knows things are good. Why does he need to look at the sentencing sheet? But you're right. It does show us a disdain and disinterest for the process. He doesn't think it's legitimate. He's arguing now that he was wrongfully convicted, LOL. And he's gone right to the movement with his jury consultant who may try to reverse this conviction for him. So,
oh my,
watch.
I mean, Roberta, if I tell you that my jaw was if you heard a thump, that was my jaw hitting the floor of the courtroom, because for him to stand up and say, I maintain my innocence, I said, that was your statement? Yeah. Oh my God, I can't even say it. I'm speechless. I was like Chef Ramsay. I'm gobsmacked. I'm speechless. And then for Rashbaum to say, what did Rashbaum end up saying? I have Rashbaum made one little statement too. What was that, Erica? Oh, he wanted this. So Rashbaum's statement to the court was very brief. All I request is that the 30 and 30 run concurrent instead of consecutive. And so right. that was it. Where's the passion? Where's the pleading? And then it's fine. It's
all his good deeds. Where he was a dentist, he helped people.
He excelled in sports. He did something wrong. He went down the wrong path. He followed his evil mother. He fell under the spell of his sister. Something.
that's what you expect at sentencing hearings from your lawyer. You expect them to try to persuade the judge. But I guess since it's Florida and it's a fait accompli, he's already doing life without parole, that we saw none of this. So it was unusual. I thought we were going to hear about the time that Charlie helped someone who couldn't afford dental work, gave him some discount dental work. Sometimes they bring in witnesses like that. Sometimes, but he also has the added problem that his family's involved in the crime. So his family or as unindicted co-conspirators, they're not going to show up either by letter or by in person to argue to the judge that these should run concurrently. These sentences. I mean, that's the best they could do. That's the only kind of advantage that he could have.
He was shaking his head no. But there it was. That's the life without parole, 30 years for the conspiracy, 30 years for the solicitation. And of course, the judge said you have 30 days to appeal your sentence and conviction. And that's it. You're off to prison. He said, you're going to be remanded to the state custody and you'll be sent to, whatever prison they decide. There's no shortage of prisons here in Florida. So
one more thing,
of course,
Sonny, sorry. Just sometimes also you get in these sentencing hearings, you get these pre-sentencing reports on his psychology, on recommendations where they look at all his factors in his case and who he is as a person, and they suggest a prison, and his lawyer will ask the judge to send him to this prison. That didn't happen in the sentencing hearing either. So
neither one of them had,
as you just said. Mm-hmm.
Right. The state, they said, did you have anything from your pre-sentence? And the state said, no, not at this time. And Daniel said, no, not at this time. And I was like, well, what were we waiting these 30 days for? You couldn't even humanize your client, even just in front of the last few people that are going to see him outside of prison, the press and some, YouTubers and stuff. You couldn't even. Yeah. So I watched them fingerprint him. Okay, remember I said last time they didn't even fingerprint him.
I thought of you when they fingerprinted him. Yeah.
Did they show that?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I was really shuffling out of there, taking my time. He had on his shower shoes. So I really was one of the last ones out. And there was he looked like he was chief of some of the deputies that were at the courthouse, because he only had a gun and a different outfit, but he didn't have like the vest and everything. And I don't know. I said, thank you for all you do. And he winked at me and said, you're welcome, because he noticed I was walking very slow. I wanted to see what Charlie was doing. So after Charlie got his fingerprints, they give you the little paper to wipe off the ink. And so he's in the chains with the waist and he's wiping off the ink off his fingers. If I cannot tell you if he was going any slower, he would have been going backwards. He was the slowest wiper of ink off his fingers that ever existed. He seemed so hesitant and I understand it, and not like in a rush to get through that last door. And the deputies were moving him along like, okay, that's enough. You're going to prison. You're not getting a manicure. And so he kind of wipes up.
You're back. I'm sorry, Sonny.
Yeah.
Sonny, you just dropped out for a second there.
Okay.
Can you go backwards and about
he was.
We were right at his shower shoes and him getting fingerprinting when you went out.
Right. And he
taking your time getting out of the courtroom, and thank you for
right. Okay. He was wiping the ink off of the fingers with the little handy wipe. He was going so slow. And it was like he was trying to stall for time. And no rush to get through that last door that was going to be the last door that's going to shut, to the public. And the deputies were moving him along, but he was just wiping his fingers and trying, and they were just like, okay, let's go. You're not here for a manicure. Get rid of that rag and get in this door. Case closed. It's on the record. Convicted prisoner.
We have a question from Rochelle. Does the fact that Sigfredo and Katie's first lawyer, the fact that they were talking to Charlie's attorney, help in their appeals? Wow, that's a sophisticated legal question. I can't answer. How about you, Sonny?
Well, I've only heard because it came up about Rashbaum sitting in on Marisol yesterday, that any attorney can assist, not legally, but what's that?
Advise.
It starts with the word I use. Yes, right. Can advise another attorney on any case, without being their lawyer of record. So, you can have any lawyer friend give you any advice, so what do you do? I can't, I'm just flummoxed that Katie had the nerve to sit up there in front of the state and the jury and say that she killed a man, but and she admitted to doing it, but she's also appealing her sentence. I mean, the city is tired of this.
I'm sorry.
You're wasting the town's money. Yeah, it's just, I feel like they're just exhausting resources that don't need to be used up. She already pled guilty. What is her appeal?
Can I just say quickly that, Katie has the best chance to reducing her sentence by just telling everything that she knows. She's the best chance of rehabilitating whatever image she has by telling everything that she knows. And instead, she's appealing her case on grounds that are going to get thrown out. It's going to go nowhere. It was the best part of the defense's cross in Charlie's trial when they asked her, when they told her, basically not asked her, you're still appealing your sentence under innocence ground or whatever grounds,
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. With her glasses and her braids and her, they spoke very kind. They almost presented, Lewis and Katie almost presented nicer on the stand and more respectful than Charlie and Wendy.
True. Great point.
So after,
how was this different than Donna's hearing yesterday? Was the mood different? Was the feel different? What was the difference for you in between Donna's and now Charlie's sentencing? I know they're two very different kinds of hearings, but I'm just curious about the mood, the feel, your
people
reaction.
It seemed like it was almost like people were, I don't want to say excited, but relieved or whatever that Donna was, locked up, whatever with her antics, Donna's gonna Donna. Today, though, it was almost like a collective breath let out, like it's done, he's gone. And, if we can do this again. And people are starting to see, because again, we had a prosecutor that wasn't going to go after the Adelsons. And so, there was some politics involved earlier, and this is why this case is over 10 years old. They really started this plot back in 2013, in Halloween of 2013, to kill Dan. Katie and Charlie did. Apparently, there were other people they hired earlier that didn't get the job done. They just stole the money. So, there was a few people hanging around. We hung out outside of the courtroom, and John Steinbeck, hi John, and Carl Steinbeck, and Patty's Playhouse, shout out to Patty. There was a courthouse girl there, Maddie, another man who came down from Long Island who owned a newspaper in New York, and he just has 2 daughters in college, so he came down for the trial. dropped his daughter off at UCF, and he went to lunch with us. What's his name? Felipe or Felice? Felice. And he was a newspaper publisher. He wrote a book, very nice man. So we all went to the Metro Deli to have lunch. And after that, we all said our goodbyes. And my daughter and I went to Wendy's house to drive. We already went by Dan's house the last time we were here, just to, make the sign of the cross. Not that I'm religious or anything. But we went to Wendy's house to see the drive. And Wendy's neighborhood was, it was a cute little neighborhood. You could tell it was young families. The houses were, cute, cookie cutter kind of, close together, little front lawns, but everybody had, decorations out for Christmas. A lot of like cartoon character Christmas stuff, like it was really cute, Disney stuff, really nice. A nice young family neighborhood. You could tell it was a lot of young families. As compared to Dan's.
You've become a fan of Tallahassee, no, Sonny?
It's really nice here. The people are so nice. And then Dan's neighborhood, by comparison, is stately, a little more upper class. I don't want to say like that. They're not mansions, but they looked more like individual homes on bigger pieces of land. And it just looked a little more, like they said, people don't get murdered in Benton Hills. It's not, this murder did not have to happen. So we drove by from Wendy's to Dan's. Trescott is not a shortcut.
Why do you say that?
Well, because that's what Wendy keeps trying to say, why she went by the crime scene. I was using Trescott's a shortcut to the ABC Liquors to go get the Bullet Bourbon. And it's not a shortcut.
What makes it just the length, or what about
the length of it? It's a very long, there's 9 or more speed humps. You can't go running through there. As a matter of fact, I said to my daughter, and there's a sidewalk only on Danny's side. The other side, it was just the people's lawns to the street. So I said to my daughter, how in the world did these guys do this shooting in the middle of the day and then get out of there so fast? And I don't know that they got out of there that fast, because otherwise the neighbor wouldn't have seen the car. And there's 9 speed bumps, and it's the middle of the day. It's school's out. It's the summer in Tallahassee. You're not going to go shooting and speeding. So it was so odd. It just, something like that just shouldn't have happened there. I don't see how they got away. There's 2 entrances, and so, Lewis said when he saw Danny go in one way, we went in the other. And so we went both ways, and Danny's house is almost in the middle. I mean, it's not a shortcut. Anyway, there's a park that Danny, down the street from Dan's house, Winthrop Park. It's where the city of Tallahassee has all their tennis courts, and there's looks like a little baseball field, but there's a playground in the back. But if you walk from Danny's house, we were driving. So when we drove, we had to take a turn and go into the park at the parking lot side by the baseball and walk across grass to get to the playground. That's not somebody who lives in the neighborhood would do. It's like a little neighborhood park on that side. You would go down Danny Street. There's a little crosswalk. You cross into the park, and you can see the little path where everybody walks up to the playground. You don't have to go by the baseball field or anything. And it was, you could just know. So we parked our car and went to the playground area. And I know Dan's bench was over there. We were looking for the bench that was dedicated to Danny. This is, yes. It started to, I mean, there was a family there. There was a family, the cutest family. I was aware, but I was not aware. I noticed that they had like a little tea set on the ground, and one was in the swings and the one was on the slide, and they were looking at the squirrels, and it was just three little girls and their mom and dad, and it was just a picture perfect day in the park. And we sat down on Danny's bench. We looked at it. We sat on it. It's very low to the ground. It's where you would sit if you want to be eye to eye with children. Mm-hmm. And I can't, I'm trying to search for the word. I want to say a melancholy acceptance, bittersweet. I was like inside of myself, but outside of myself at the same time. I had a physical reaction. I can remember it right now. I'm having a physical reaction because as you're sitting there, you realize this did not have to happen. You can sit in there, and you knew that sitting at that bench, of course, he wasn't sitting there watching his children playing. He was playing with his children. There were swings and slides. The boys were young. They weren't like 8 and 10. You sit there on your computer and say, go play. You had to push your kids on the swings. You have to help them down the slide. And I know sitting there, as a mother, I just knew that he, in that time, appreciated the time of the boy's life. That's so fun when they're youngsters playing on playground equipment. It just came into me that Danny was really enjoying his son's young life, and that Wendy lied about Danny always working and rearranged he rearranged his schedule. I need a moment there.
Always working. How could he be always working if he's going to their schools and having snack time with them and lunch with them? I mean, that's just, it's not consistent. Karen, thank you so much for your super chat. To answer your question about the judge did not give any statement about the case or about Charlie, which is they sometimes do when they're handing down these sentences. He just handed down the sentence straight. So everything that I was predicting or thinking that was going to happen didn't happen. This was probably my most off prediction yet on a sentencing hearing. But what I hear Sonny saying is what I know from going to trials is that it's so much more real when you're there. You're hearing the words, the offender, the murderers in front of you, or the convict is in front of you. You're hearing these victim impact statements. A life is being brought alive to you, and when you experience it through the bench and you see what his life must have been like, it hits very hard as a young father and a young committed father. And then what I also hear is you saying that it's what makes it doubly sad is how defamed he's been by Wendy Adelson in her book, in her podcast, in her testimony. And how unfair that she should still be alive to defame him, and Dan isn't here to defend himself, among other wrong things about that situation.
And that's why it's so important that you and all the other new media, thank you, Carl Steinbeck, jury trial mentor lawyer James and his helpful ladybug. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's so many people, and you can't count on the mainstream media anymore. This is it. This is what's happening. I do want to point out that as we parked the car and we saw that if you tried to drive to that park from Dan's house, it would actually take you longer to put two kids in a car seat, put them in the car, drive, turn the corner, go up, find the spot, and then try to walk across the baseball field. So the fact that he put the kids, one maybe in a stroller, maybe hand by hand, I could just picture him walking down the street with his little boys and one in each hand, going across that crosswalk. And for her to say, that just to walk to the park with your youngsters, the conversations that you can have with them, it's just I bet the boys, I feel so bad that they're missing that. They're missing everything their father had to offer them. It's just a damn shame. I just realized that what she just lied about so many things. He did. It's, you know, they're school teachers basically. He had summers off. They had spring break, and the boys weren't even in school, so they, you know, did a lot. But Wendy would never
swimming that day, and Wendy's complaining about it.
Why? She wanted him to go to daycare. He probably just did it because she had to pick him up that day or something. You know, like he probably would have rather spent the day with his kids than put them in the daycare.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's something that they arranged, you know, and that first order of refusal she never honored. It's just.
And you also got such a clear picture what they've also had their grandparents taken from them too.
Oh my God.
And
the love of grandparents is
never given to them. And as someone who, this is not even comparable, but who was cut off, there was a rift in my family, and I didn't meet my grandmother till I was 9 years old. It's a very, you know, something is wrong. You know, someone's missing from your family. There's these gifts that are in your parents' closet piling up. You don't know what they're about, but it has a very eerie and odd feel. And it's not a good situation for a family to have estranged relatives.
It's strange that your parents,
right?
Your parents kept the gifts. I mean, like Wendy threw everything away that, you know, that the boys got from Grandma Ruth. But your mom kept the things, but didn't give them to you?
As a gift, as to give to other, for birthday parties to give.
She recycled. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that a Seinfeld episode?
It was eventually worked out. Right. It's eventually worked out in my family, but I feel like I can understand a little bit, not totally. It's not the same situation, but a little bit of what the boys might have gone through the rift that was in my family. It's not a good situation for kids. You need a full family. Everybody, you're so lucky if you have living grandparents as children.
Well, it also makes me think if Danny was such an awful person and your children have half of his DNA, are you going to one day, you know, hate them when they start being religious or smarter than you or looking like him?
Good point. Very good point.
She's insecure. What if one of those becomes another? I heard one of them is very smart, like brilliant, like a high IQ smart. What if he is a Danny Jr. and goes to Harvard too? I mean, wouldn't that be fantastic? Revenge?
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking the same thing about the religion. I thought is because they were raised with this, it's almost like a negative attitude towards Judaism and eating kosher. And I wanted to take them to burger joint. The minute I saw Danny eating at Whole Foods from her police questioning, and I thought she's going to take them to that burger joint so that they can eat a cheeseburger, some non-kosher meal just out of spite. So when everything is so contentious around their religion, is one of these children going to take Danny's path and really connect to their faith and be very devout in their Judaism? And what will that do to his relationship with his mother, their mother?
Well,
should she be a free woman at that time?
Well, this is why there's people that are concerned for her and the children, not her, but, you know, desperate people do desperate things. We all know that.
Good point.
So I don't want to even go there because I already was feeling enough tragedy today, and we came home, and I feel so sorry that this happened. I feel so embarrassed that people from my state did this to another human being, and that, you know, they just thought they could get away with it, and then to stand up after hearing all of that and saying, I maintain my innocence, it's just a slap in the face. It's
true. It really was repulsive that he can't say even
I just
that I'm
ball
sorry for the
up.
pain of the Markells, but I maintain my innocence. And nothing,
Right.
not even acknowledging the Markel family
Acknowledging
or
it.
the impact of this crime.
And Charlie's son still has his last name, and Charlie's baby mama posted a picture of Charlie holding the baby when he was a baby on her Instagram today and put Charlie the dad or something. And I said, somebody please go clip Charlie in Prison Blues and put him holding the baby and then send it back to her and said, this is what your baby's daddy looks like right now. He's a killer. I can't believe the gall of this woman. Putting up a picture of Charlie holding the baby.
He's a convicted killer. He's a convicted killer. Not a dad. He's a daddy, but he's also a convicted killer.
Okay. So why? So he's the most important dad. He took a dad away from, you know, the self-importance of these people. Why does your son still have a father? Why does your son still have your last name?
Mm-hmm. That was great when Phil brought that up in his victim impact statement. He said, my grandchildren's names have been changed from Markel to Adelson, and it rang out like a bell.
Boy, did he
hear it.
Great.
From his victim impact statement.
Say it loud and say it proud, Phil, because this needs to be said. And I think a YouTuber, Madness and Motive, is going to fix the sound and reload it. And I commented that everybody needs to hear this so they will see the truth behind Wendy's lies and see Dan for the man that he was and not what they want us to think he was, or the public. Because I don't think what else you could say after what Mr. Markel spoke. There's really the victim advocate was behind us, and she just got up and said to Georgia that Shelley is with Mrs. Markel and that Mr. Markel had already presented the statement. And that's what Ruth said on Court TV. There was just going to be that statement. So we don't know if there were emails sent to the state from FSU. I can't imagine the whole, I said, what if the whole FSU faculty shows up in court today? Will that make any difference? It doesn't.
I would think with a mandatory life sentence, there wouldn't be a whole host of letters written in support of a stronger sentence because it's
there's nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He that's why he didn't need to look at the score sheet, I guess. I just thought he'd see it in writing, hearing it and then seeing it, and maybe he'd just be like, but nope, the arrogance lives on. Give him another year or two in jail or state prison.
Do you have any? So what I hear also is just, I really thank you for going to court. It is extremely hard work. This is, you have to really concentrate. You're taking notes. It is very stimulating and overwhelming and emotional. And I thank you for not only taking the long drive up there to do this, but for doing the hard work of really paying attention in court and bringing us all so many details that we could have missed from watching it on our screen or just couldn't know from watching it on a feed on the internet. When you woke up this morning, what were you thinking about Donna's sentence? Did you have any sort of different kinds of takes or a different feel, or how did you sum that up in your head looking back on it with just a little bit of a distance?
For Donna, you mean? Mm-hmm. For Donna, you said?
Yes.
I think Donna is going to face the same exact thing Charlie and Katie were all convicted of, because it's the exact same thing. I think that the jurors and everybody else is like, where's Wendy? Where's Donna? That's just what it felt like. People were saying, where's the rest of this clan? So I think it's the same thing. I think she's facing the same thing.
Is there anything? Is there anything else you want to say about Charlie or Donna's?
No, I never want to. I never want to look at or hear or speak of him again. But we need to talk about the victim and Danny and the Markells, and hope that they get all the support they need. They did thank all the news media. We thank everybody. And it's. I do want to say that the courthouses are open. The court is free, that anybody at any time can go down and watch our justice system work. You can watch the civil court, which most people said is pretty boring. You can go to the criminal court. The way people dress for court is quite interesting. I'm appalled at some people. Put on some clothes, fix your hair. I don't know.
Show some
Oh
respect.
My goodness.
Business casual, please.
But when you walk in there, you feel that you're in a place that things go right here. Things are it's right and good. There's judges on the walls. They treat you with respect. No one, absolutely no one, treats you with any kind of anything other than kindness and helpfulness. There's no racism here. There's no prejudice here. The town alone was
100%.
The town alone is great.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. So
please go to our courts. Go to night court. Check it out in real time. It's
a fascinating
experience and an enriching one.
Exactly. You can see if you'll start to see if you side. You can see a defendant's rights being represented or trampled on, which we don't allow for that either. This wouldn't be America if we treated defendants, other than with the presumption of innocence. You can also look at how the state prepares and all the order. And if you think it was a lot for me to put on some makeup and nice clothes and go sit in court, I can imagine the work that Georgia and the state and the team and the lawyers go through. And to know they're on camera, everything they say is on record. I mean, props to these people, and justice will prevail. And you'll find, go to any court at any time and watch the proceedings. Look at the judges, and the judges get voted in here. So, if you don't like the way crime is being handled in your town, go vote for a new judge. It's that easy.
Pay attention to your DA races.
That's right. And see if they're taking care of crime in your neighborhood or in where you care about. You can't save the world, but you can save yourself.
People that are important to you, right?
That's right.
That are important to you, or try to. It doesn't always work out, but try to.
And the more people that go, the more people that talk about it, the more exposure there is, the less cover up, the less hiding, and that's how you get justice. We just can't let people think that they can do this and get away with it because there's a war going on here or there's a bad economy. All that's always going to be going on, hopefully not as bad, but we have to hold these criminals accountable. And I think we've gotten a little soft on that, and we need to stop and step it up and think about the victims. It's not the criminal justice system. It should be victims justice system. The name is a terrible name. And I've got a great idea for a couple of us women, myself, my daughter, Patty, at Patty's Playhouse. Hey, Patty Wilson, maybe you, Roberta. We're going to form our own jury consultant business called Women's Intuition Consulting Business. Between the four of us, we can see and smell the BS, and we know, we can tell. We can read people.
BS consulting business.
Yeah, right. Women's intuition. We can see right through you, and we won't charge you $1 million right away until we get you the right jury.
Wasn't that a catastrophe? I'll talk about that a little bit more tomorrow, but we were going over Josh Dubin and this crazy, insane, a friend of the show, Toni Natalye, wrote me. We met at the Nexium trial, and she loves voir dire, and she said, I've never seen a voir dire like this. This was wild. But I still have people in the comment section saying, I don't know what I'm talking about, and I don't understand the presumption of innocence. But okay, I just thought it was bizarre speech, and his insistence on innocence, having a position of innocence all the way into the jury deliberations doesn't even make sense.
Well, you did hear him address a man, and when he said it, that one of the potential jurors, I know that, I had written it down, that Charlie, when the man said, you couldn't hear the man's question, but you could hear Josh Dubin's reply when he said, well, I know you want the presumption of innocence, but he's arrested and in jail, so there must be something somewhere. The state, people, otherwise they're thinking, like, could I just get arrested for nothing? You know what I'm saying?
Right. He might have done something.
He might have done something. They don't just go arrest people arbitrarily on the street and charge them with, a first-degree murder.
Right. I can see him as innocent. I'll listen to the evidence, and I will make a fair decision from what's presented as evidence in this courtroom.
Exactly. But we can still we still have faith enough in our state attorney and our, not, I want to say police, but the detectives, that they are arresting the right people. And if they don't, they find out quickly enough and release them. It's, you're not going to stay in jail for a year or something, hopefully, without a reason to. And if it wasn't this actual crime, well, there's a reason that you're not available to be on bond. Maybe it was another crime. So,
the way the media is presenting our justice system is criminal in itself, in my opinion. As this, and that's why haphazard injustice factory. I've actually heard it described by some activists as a factory or assembly line of injustice. There's the exact phrase, and that's absurd.
Are these the same people that are
right? It's not 100%, but nothing is. Because
are these the same people that are insisting there's racism that doesn't exist? Because I haven't seen it.
Right.
It's like there's a shortage of it in the United States, but there's a complete lack of racism here in this Tallahassee capital. And in Florida, mostly because we have so many people from everywhere. It doesn't exist, and it doesn't exist in New York. So I don't know. They need to stop flapping their gums.
There certainly are people with those kind of biases, but systematically, it does not exist in our system, woven into the fabric of our institutions. That's my position on it. You're certainly going to meet occasionally with some sort of biases.
Well, right. And in televising these trials, they'll show that we're not just railroading Black people. Look at this white people. Look at this rich white family. We have another rich white lady, Shanna Gardner, who's got all of the brown people arrested, and she was not, got her husband killed. She's like Wendy 2.0. That's going to be in Jacksonville Beach, Florida next year. So I might be going to that.
What's her name?
Shanna Gardner.
Oh, Shanna Gardner. And the victim's name in that case?
Jared Brightigan.
Thank you. Okay.
And her parents own the Stamping Up MLM.
Oh, multi-level marketing company, you mean?
Yes.
Oh,
yes. Another little cult. They're all Mormons too. Nothing against Mormons, but the company, Shanna was a Mormon. They're all Mormons when she got married, and so she was young, virgin bride, just like Wendy. There's a lot of similarities. Look it up. It's just a different religion. Just a different religion. I'm telling you, this organized religion has ruined a lot of people. People, be free thinkers.
It's got its benefits. It's definitely got its drawbacks. Sonny Tanner, is there anything else you want to talk about before I close the stream?
I want to thank everybody for their kindness. If I offended anyone, I apologize. Let's remember the victims. We're passionate about justice, and let's keep moving forward, being positive for victims, seek justice, visit the courts, help with the laws. You know, we have the power, we're the people. If you don't like something, change it. Follow the people who are getting the message out that you like, share the message, and I appreciate your community and everyone interested in finding justice for the victims. And thank you all. Thank you very much.
Very well said. If you've enjoyed this episode, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, or follow the podcast. Leave me a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. I will be back very soon with more true crime content. I'm going to keep it short for today, and I will be back really soon to talk about more true crime cases. Sonny Tanner, you have been a fascinating guest. I appreciate you and all the hard work you put into covering this case from the courtroom.
And my daughter, who drove me and does all the technical work for me. I have to say thank you, Erica.
Thank you, Erica. Have a great night, everybody. Sonny, stay right there. I'll see you back here real soon.